Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun. Good morning. It is November 13th. I am Speculator Seth and you are watching live day trading with me. We trade the Treasury market. It's big kid stuff. And man, we have a market. Let's just go right into the chart, guys. So overnight we had a huge move up overnight. All the way back up above 128. And at this point, this is where I get to say, I told you so. I told you so last Friday. I said we should be at 129. We did not go back to 129. This whole fall down here was nonsense. And here moving up towards 129. Finally, justice. Unfortunately, you can be right and not make any money off of it. And yeah, so here we are this morning. I don't see any news. I don't see it yet. We're going to keep looking, but I don't see any one specific news event that precipitated this huge move up. So let's keep that in mind. That means there is a chance that this whole thing could completely unwind. I would not be surprised. I mean, let's keep an eye out for our good old friend, the seller. He has been relentless this week. E-mini also moving down a little bit overnight, not quite as it was with treasuries, but they took a big tumble after Trump's speech. I was actually saying in Discord, I think, this was a stop run. And so when he's done talking, I think you sell it. And it turned out to be a great trade. Purely speculative trade, though, so I don't think we count that one, right? If you're keeping score of when Seth says something, if you're keeping score, don't count that one because that was speculative. But anyways, that's where we are. So if this continues, we could see E-mini down more today. I mean, I think that we're in a good spot when you kind of zoom out here. I think we're in a good spot, and I still think that this naked point of control back here at 30.59 is looks very vulnerable, right? Well, I think we're doing pretty good today. I have got I got here on time. I ate. I feel like I got an okay night's rest. Sometimes it gets cold and it's hard to sleep, man. I can't manage it. I need like a better blanket because the blanket that I have, it keeps me too cold when it gets really cold at night. But then if I put another blanket on top of it, I get too hot. Like I sweat. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. But overall, I'm feeling good. Here comes the open. Okay. So on the open, they sold it. Not significant. But they sold it, and there were a ton of asks put on. So, probably means the sellers are going to take it. Now, with all that said, we have important news. Important news today. Oh, it's the 13th. My Forex calendar is not showing. So, in 10 minutes, we get CPI. We are looking for a reading of spot 3 with a previous reading of spot 0. Remember that spot 0 was a big disappointment, and the market did not move nearly as far as we thought it would, but there was all sorts of crazy chaos going on back then. Anyways, core CPI, we're looking for a reading of spot 2 with a previous reading of spot 1. Also, Chairman Powell will testify at 9 o'clock. I will be gone by then, but he's going to be testifying today. It looks like that the news is trying to play it up again. I'm come over here to CNBC. And that's the That's the headline. Dow is set to open lower by 100 points as investors wait for Fed Chair Powell's testimony. I think that they probably made a bit of news way overhyping Trump's speech yesterday, and they're trying to play it again. That's what I think is going on here. How are you guys doing? All right, so also we need to open up our robot. Where's the robot? There we go. Okay. Okay. Do a little test here real quick. You guys being a little quiet this morning. All right, it shows up.
Speculator Seth says test. Harlequin says just tuned in and heard Powell's speech. Is it going to be an important one?
Okay, so Chairman Powell is due to testify on the economy before the Joint Economic Committee in Washington, D.C. So that means he's testifying to both the House and the Senate, I believe. And it is important, of course. It's always an important thing. But the past 3 times that I've seen this, it was not.
Greg Orlovsky says, hi Seth, CPI in 7 minutes. Powell at 11 o'clock EST.
Was never a significant mover in the long term of markets. Like, the Federal Reserve doesn't go to Congress to announce interest rate policy changes, you know? They would never do that. They have their ways of letting the market know about things, and they're not going to do it at testimony, you know, in front of Congress. But Congress, you know, this is where Congress will ask him questions and try and trip him up, and we laugh because Congress doesn't seem to have a clue what's going on. It'll be fun, but I doubt that it's a huge thing. But when the media plays it up, people are going to be out there saying stuff, you know, whatever. Now, this CPI, though, CPI is a huge number. I cannot stress that enough. CPI is always important. CPI, and especially, well, it's kind of interesting because this time CPI comes out first. Isn't usually the PPI that comes out first? But CPI is usually, the consumer price index is usually the important one. I mean, that's what the Federal Reserve bases their interest rate decisions on. So okay, so this is a kind of interesting little move up. But somebody did decide to push back at 24.5. Yes, so was there news? I'm just going to keep scrolling back here. November 11th, CTAs are almost done selling bonds, says Zero Hedge. So that's one. USD JPY falls to 4-day low as bond yields sink further on the day. Yields down 6 basis points. The value momentum reversals over buy treasuries. And then he quotes Gartman, the case can be made that the 3-decade-long bull run in treasuries has run its course to the end. So they're saying Dennis Gartman is always wrong. That was 1 hour ago? What? No, that was further back than that, right? And Donald Trump tweeting stuff. Brexit. See, I just don't see anything to help me see what would cause it.
Lucas says, morning Seth.
Good morning, Lucas. Well, we did come back up a decent clip there. Somebody was definitely buying it and trying to create some sort of a trend going into it, but yeah, I don't know. Here's the thing. If that number comes out and it's higher than expected. Like if we got, well, let's remember, which one is the one that core? Core is the one that is excluding food and energy. So if core CPI comes out and core CPI is like 0.3, they are going to sell this mother. Oh boy, are they going to sell this mother. So there's that. He's buying it up. It seems like they might be front running it though. I mean, last month's was low. I would not be surprised to see this month's to be a little low as well. We'll move this down so that we can see Twitter at the same time. Okay, so what is this? CTAs are almost done. In his latest note, which we covered on Friday, JP Morgan, Mako Kalanovic discussed how much higher he thinks 10-year yields can rise before they become a potential problem for stocks. His answer is 150 basis points, although an even more important question is how fast they get there, and lately they have been surging. The JP Morgan quant also explained why he thinks stocks are primed to rise further from current levels. In short, an unwind of the massive defense recession is coming trade that defined much of 2019 as active managers rush to dump losers and scramble to make up for underperformance in the last 7 weeks of the year in the form of chasing beta rotation, two-way, blah, 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 blah. Shortly after this, Kolanovic laid out his thesis. Bloomberg followed suit with get ready as beta-chasing stock managers tried to make up ground. We disagree. Okay, yeah. They tell us this whole thing, and then the guy that's writing this Zero Hedge article disagrees. Yeah, these people. As a reminder, the biggest catalyst for September's violent rotation out of momentum growth names and into value stocks was the sudden spike in Treasury yields as the market repriced the probability of a near-term recession. As such, it was a sharp move in yields that catalyzed the quant crash of early September, resulting in the violent reversal between cyclicals and defensive. Yes. And specifically, the sudden reversal in the most aggressive investor class CTAs. So, looking at the role CTAs played in a sharp move of yields in 2019, what becomes clear is that it was the aggressive buildup of net long positions by CTAs starting in September 2018 and culminating in September 2019, before a violent reversal saw CTAs puke their long bond positions, in the process crashing pure momentum portfolios as trend-following strategies were clobbered as a result of knee-jerk moves in the 10-year. This is interesting.
Harlequin says I like Zero Hedge for the news, but they are the biggest bears lol, always new articles regarding crashes.
Right? Yeah. If they're your only source of news, then you get in like a super biased picture, right? Limit orders only. Here we go, 5 seconds. Remember the number we're looking, core CPI spot 2. Okay. And here's the news. I got nothing. No real move. Okay. Normal CPI was spot 4.
Harlequin says I mean news like China tweets. They are really fast.
But core CPI was in line with expectations at spot 2. So again, regular CPI that includes food and energy was spot 4 versus the previous spot 3. Makes sense. Oil was up, right?
Harlequin says my German site lacks behind lol, sometimes 10 to 15 minutes.
Core CPI, we got spot 2 versus an expected spot 2. Numbers in line with expectations. Market not moving very much. I see some stacking at 24. Given the context, this stacking at 24 is vague to me because when you see news and there's some movement, that is when you can see a stack and you want to follow it. But we had news and it didn't mean anything. So is that stack really for real? I suspect that we have this little move up that they're going to come back and test it, and then we can see what happens. But for now, I'm not quite sure what to make. I suppose we could try buying. I mean, if the inflation numbers aren't bad, then I guess that means good for the Federal Reserve not doing anything. A little bit too much volume trading at 27 though, huh? So what are CTAs? Commodity trading advisors? I see. Commodity trading advisors, which are more technically minded than other hedge funds and are also quicker to act, have since September been unwinding the substantial net long positions in government bonds that they had accumulated. After hitting a near record high net long exposure in sovereign rates, which peaked right around the time 17 trillion in global bonds traded with a negative yield, the same CTAs have now shrunk their aggressive net long position in major DM, I don't know what that means, government bond futures by about 80% from the late August peak. Sure. In other words, there is over 20% left in the great unwind before CTAs turn neutral, and there is no more impetus for them to liquidate positions. Meanwhile, as the 10-year yield broke above 1.9 earlier this week, which Nomura estimates to be the average cost of CTA's net long buying of the Treasury since April, this drew CTAs into a further loss cutting and even more negative rates in a higher yield, greater liquidity feed backstop. Well, I find this story interesting because it seems to explain why when we sell the way that we do, because somebody is unwinding a position, and that would certainly seem to line up with what we've seen. That it's been a hard market for me to make money, and we come down and it's like they just ignore any kind of order flow that we got and they just sell it. That's somebody that really wants out. Okay. So the stacking was like at what? 24, 25. It's gone now. Still blue. Oh, by the way, where's Bitcoin? Bitcoin, a little recovery overnight and back to where it was. E-mini up a little bit also. I don't know. Need to reload these charts. Okay. There we go. I thought so. Load levels. Okay. Well, we got a ways to go to get to the opening range. They might try it. I don't know. I don't Well, my price, like my guide levels say buy, but the situation just it's not quite right, is it? Not quite right, is it? All right, well, let's see what else we got out there. A key measure of U.S. consumer prices unexpectedly cooled in October despite fresh tariffs on Chinese goods. A sign price gains may be slow to reach the Federal Reserve's target even after interest rate cuts this year. The core consumer price index, which excludes volatile food and energy costs, rose 2.3% from a year earlier, a Labor Department report showed Wednesday. That missed economist estimates while the broader CPI climbed 0.4 and 1.8 annually. With both readings topping forecasts, the core measure was up 0.2 on the month, matching projections. Okay. Which is what we were talking about. Japan search giant Yahoo to merge with line messaging app Nikkei. Wait, Yahoo is a Japan search giant? What? Okay, whatever. Man, you know what? So I did yesterday. I got in, I got home, and it was like, oh, I'm home and there's nothing to do. Because previous Tuesdays, there was either something going on and I couldn't really do anything, or like my car broke down and I wasn't able to actually go home, that sort of a thing. So I came home on Tuesday. I'm like, oh, I actually have a night to do stuff. What should I do? So I went through the things I want to do. And one of the things I wanted to test was to see if I could fit my DSLR on my desk, to see if it would be worth it to get a cam link and use my DSLR as a webcam. And it totally worked. The tripod fits up there, and I can put the camera in a good spot. And I tested. I had my wife sit there, and I aimed the camera at it, and I think it would look pretty good. Look at that 12 3/4. Curious. Anyways, so I put it up there and it all worked, and then I moved on to something else. The big thing I did was I went out into the garage and I set up a weightlifting platform in the garage. So now all I need is $2,000 for weights, which might take a while. But I set it up, it's up there, and it's in the garage. But so now I come in here and the camera is still set up, and I see it over there whenever I look at the camera. This
Harlequin
is right
says,
there.
doesn't the impeachment hearing start today? If so, do you think this will influence the market?
Anyways, I see the camera and like it makes me really want to go and buy that cam link. But like there was one used here in Salt Lake for like 100, which is too much. I'm seeing them going on eBay for like 75. So I told him 75 and he said no. I was like, fine, I'll get it on eBay. Oh, are you kidding me? We're not restarting now. No, thank you. Okay, so will the impeachment hearing influence
Michael XC
the market?
says, is the market going to continue moving up?
I don't know, man. They are sure showing a lot of reason to move up, aren't they? I am now detecting a slight overextension. Maybe some iceberging there at 27.5. So this might be a spot to take it short, but often when we get that, it's the wrong way. That seems correct. It seems like that it would be better to wait for them to pull back and go further, but it's my normal edges don't seem to be helping me here because it just doesn't seem right. But I do believe that the House is holding some hearings that are going to be public today. But I wouldn't expect it to move the market any more than the impeachment inquiry already has, because nobody expects any new information to come out from this, and nobody expects the president to actually be impeached. So I would suspect probably not. It's probably not going to be a major factor. This CPI news is probably the biggest factor in there right now, but since it's in line with expectations, I think that means that it's a wash. Now, the question is, why are they buying overnight? And will the seller come back? So far, no. They did move through there. Hold on. Make a bunch of noise here. My wife was using the computer and she did not have the chair in the same spot. You know how the chair kind of will create divots in the carpet? So the chair wanted to go into those divots and was preventing me from getting closer to the screen. Well, to the microphone. Well, maybe we should have bought into this. I don't know. So there was an iceberg there. I think that it was at 27.5 though, right? And we seemed to have overcome that one. They let it come down and then they pushed it back up again. It seems like that the buyers are being pretty aggressive with it. And that pushing might have been the buyers trying to push it through. There's another click and some people bought into 28. But that was actually a stack on the ask at 28. So I see a bid, ask. I mean, there's a reasonable amount of activity. A reasonable amount of activity by the larger players, especially in the 5-year or the 30-year. What is the spreads doing here? Well, when I look at the larger term chart, it's a lot of noise, but you can see the 10 and 5-year seems to be going down, and the 10 and 30 is just like noise all over the place. And the 2 and 10 kind of headed back down quite a bit from that big move overnight. But what I'd be concerned about here, I mean, so the high was 29.5. We've been up here before. We could get a sort of like some sort of a...
Harlequin says, just curious, is there a scenario where not all bonds move up? For instance, 2 move up and 1 is going short, like the seldom things where S plus NQ had a trend day long but Dow dropped due to Boeing.
Seen it once. And it was just a crazy spread trade. Like it was, oh man, it was an insane spread trade. I wish I could remember which video it was because it was definitely while we were recording. But the 10-year Treasury had a huge iceberg in it and didn't do anything. and the 30-year moved like 12 ticks. It was like a flattener. They bought the 10 and they sold the 30. It was crazy, and it really messed the market up for the 2 or 3 days after that. But somebody was really anxious to take a big old spread trade. So it's possible, but I've seen it once. And it wasn't even like they went in opposite directions, you know? It was like this one didn't go anywhere and this one moved. So it would require some really crazy imbalance to make them go opposite ways. Maybe if the Federal Reserve was doing something.
Harlequin says close enough, I guess, face with tears of joy.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I mean, we could probably look at a chart and find it, but I don't know. I don't even think that you would be able to see it on a daily. It was a weird move. I'm pretty sure, though, that we have it recorded. Or maybe we could search for it in Discord if we knew what to look for. That's why I've been trying to give these videos individual names every day now. Not only because it helps the YouTube algorithm, but because it makes it a lot easier to find a specific day, because you can remember the name of it and you go, oh yes, that's right, this is what was happening. Okay, so I'm still getting a little bit of action in the 5-year. Some icebergs at 12 and 3/4. I'm not seeing a significant amount of on a minute basis, except for when they started to move up there. Then a lot of people tried to get in on it. Bloomberg, if you can roast a turkey for Thanksgiving, you can roast a pig. I say, why not both? Why not both? What about Japanese yen here? Well, it did move up with the rest of them. 10-year came back a little bit more than the other ones did. That's kind of interesting. They still look highly correlated, though. Wonder... British pound, euro, gold. Gold not seeing the same buying that we are seeing in the treasuries. Oil kind of moving a little bit with the dollar. Facebook accused of censorship in lawsuit over posts naming whistleblower. They're going to do a lawsuit over that? Okay. Reddit says that they're going to allow the guy's name to go forward. You all know what his name is, though, so, like, who cares? That whole thing is silly. Like, it's out. Deal with it. Okay, you see, now they're... So we're doing a 3-tick chop range. This one is a little bit less common. And it can be a real... Because in this situation, you want to buy 27 and sell 27.5. But once you get too many guys in there doing that, then they can start doing weird stuff to you. So they're not my favorite. Maybe if you had seen that was going to happen, how would you know that, though? What else do we got? I was wondering, have you guys seen all of this stuff about, man? I mean, we got all sorts of... There's not a whole lot of financial news this morning. But yesterday there was a big stink about Stephen Miller. White House policy advisor Stephen Miller, seen in emails leaked to some news outlet, I forget who it was, but he was sending stories to Breitbart that were like kind of, what would we say, like aggressively anti-immigrant. They were like, look at all of these crime statistics and these sorts of things. And so, it was the SPLC. So the SPLC comes out and they say, look, this is proof that Stephen Miller is a white nationalist. Well, it doesn't work that way, guys. To be a white nationalist, they have to say that they are a white nationalist, or they have to say, that they believe that the United States should primarily promote the interests of white people or something like that. And then he would qualify as a white nationalist. But the truth is that Stephen Miller has repudiated these ideas many times. In fact, he said, because Richard Spencer said, the reason this started, I did some research. The reason this started was because Richard Spencer said that Stephen Miller was like he mentored Stephen Miller. And when you read what he said about it, it's basically like, oh, we met in college one time and I was nice to him, but like Stephen Miller probably doesn't even remember it. It was like the whole thing is just kind of dumb, right? He's basically Richard Spencer is exaggerating. And so when asked to comment on it, Stephen Miller said,
Michael XC says Steve Miller has some good tunes.
He said, I have no relationship with this guy and I completely repudiate his ideas. And also Stephen Miller is a Jew. So the idea that he would be a white nationalist is just kind of crazy, frankly. The whole storyline that the SPLC is putting out is false, because just because you posted anti-immigrant stories does not make you a white nationalist. Okay. But man, the left really went crazy with it yesterday.
Maybe he's a joker.
Maybe he's a joker. I mean, what they're saying, it's a conspiracy theory, right? They're saying that he's a secret white nationalist, right? It's the left's favorite conspiracy theory, I think. Maybe not their favorite conspiracy theory, but in terms of like something that is completely unsubstantiated, it's their favorite. So they really went crazy with like AOC was like, he should resign and all this stuff. Yeah, nothing's going to happen because he's not a white nationalist, guys.
Harlequin says inside man, sleeper agent.
Inside man, the sleeper agent, right? Well, and it doesn't help if you ever looked at these.
Michael XC says, so what happened with the Robin Hood thing? Anyone make any money? Or did they all lose a ton?
There was one guy made a bunch of money. One guy did make money, supposedly. A bunch of people lost money. I don't know if Robin Hood closed it. I think that they did. I think that what's happening is that if you try to do it, then Robin Hood catches on to it quickly.
Michael XC says, is he allowed to keep it?
I don't know. I would suspect so, but I don't really know. But even if he did, even if he was allowed to keep it,
Gary Rich says, hey, San Fran elected a mayor who has Weather Underground love child, Parents Mentor by Bill Ayers.
Oh, right. I mean, wait, one subject at a time, Gary. One subject at a time. Did they make money? If he made money and he's allowed to keep it, there's going to be legal things, because what they were doing was a breach of security laws. So I suspect that if he is allowed to keep it, that there will be a legal action in the future. I doubt that it's the last that we've heard of it. Okay, San Francisco elected a mayor who is a Weather Underground. The Weather Underground thing is interesting because they were straight up a terrorist organization.
Gary Rich says Robin Hood will reverse the trades. Harlequin says, yeah, I saw the story about Stephen Miller on Reddit Politics. This whole sub seems to be for Democrats just watching the top news plus comments.
Oh, it totally is. Listen, Harlequin, the way that one of the reasons that Reddit became popular was because right-wing activists were starting to become more powerful on Dig. So in the beginning, there was Dig, and Dig was a better website, straight up. because Dig had a special algorithm that was based on the Google algorithm that was able to look at who voted a particular story and pushed stories to the front page that had broad support. So if it was like just you and your like a dozen friends or so, and you all upvoted for it, it wouldn't help the story at all. You had to get upvotes from a wide array of people. On Reddit, you can come in, a dozen people upvote the thing, and then it goes to the front page. And so what happened was people started to build these big networks to try and push stuff to the front page. And you would have top posters, like what we call them, power users, that would get stuff to the front page every day.
Harlequin says Dick, well, I can see why this name isn't popular lol. Hey, have you seen the news on Dick?
Jeez. So anyways, there was a time on Dig when liberal activists were able to build a large enough network to just completely dominate the site. And this was how Huffington Post first became popular. You would go to Dig, and literally all of the top 10 stories that day would be from the Huffington Post. And all of the conservatives on the website got sick of it because they didn't come there for the politics. It wasn't always political. It was a tech website. It was mostly for like tech news. It was like the replacement to Slashdot. So a group was formed called the Dig Patriots, which was against site terms to try and manipulate stories. But the larger thing though was that there was more conservative people on the website, and they were starting to have sway with the algorithm. So on Reddit, moderators, they created subreddits, and moderators get to curate the content on the subreddits, and the liberals had complete control over it. So the liberal activists encouraged people to move over to Reddit, specifically because they had more political power on Reddit. I'm not kidding. I used to, because I really wanted to get stuff to the front page, so I would get messages through, most of it went through Google Talk. I remember when Occupy Wall Street happened, I was getting private messages about it 2 weeks before it happened. It was, and everybody tries to act like it was like an organic thing that just kind of happened. Heck no, it was totally pre-planned. And the like Lifehacker and what's the name of the media group that owns all of those? Deadspin, Gawker, yeah, Gawker. The Gawker network was totally in on it, organizing it, and had prepared stories beforehand. They didn't say any of this when they posted on. They pretended like it was all organic, but if you were on the lists, you knew that they were all full of shit, right? Man, the manipulation that was there. So now today on Reddit, you have this thing where Reddit became a large-scale website and a subreddit. You know, the conservatives learned all of the lessons and created their own subreddit and learned how to make one that, didn't immediately get, what is the word, like brigaded, right? Because they were really strict. It was like, you're either a supporter or you're banned. And that was what allowed it to actually surface. And then they started doing all of the tricks that everybody else was doing, where they were like, get a dozen people to upvote it at once, or just upvote literally everything in the sub, and sticky things that we really want to see come up to the top. And they started dominating the algorithm. And then you get to the point where they are now, where it was like Reddit had to make specific rules just to throttle the Donald until they quarantined it. But yes, the Reddit is what it is today, in part because liberal activists promoted the website because they had more control over it. And I was super into that stuff. I've always been super into social media kind of stuff. I really wanted to be the kind of person that could post something to Reddit and get it to the front page, because I wanted to do my own ventures. I've always wanted to do my own ventures.
Occupy Wall Street was a giant shit show, literally and figuratively. Yeah. It spawned West Coast shit tent cities.
Well, the thing is I don't think that they didn't think it through, really, did they? Right? They said, "Oh, we're going to have this protest, and it's going to turn into this big movement." And then what happened was all of the crazy liberal activists with their crazy ideas came out. So a lot of it was like the ideas like the microphone thing. Like, these were all stuff that activists had been speculating about for years and stuff. So they came out, and then the other thing was getting the homeless involved. Well, there's kind of a little bit of a problem about getting the homeless involved with your political movement, and that is that in the United States, a pretty sizable portion of the homeless are homeless because they're drug addicts or they have mental health issues, right? A lot of this happened because we shut down the mental institutions, unfortunately. And so, yeah, of course they started to have problems. It's kind of funny in retrospect, isn't it? And I remember at the time, everybody tried to say, "Oh, that's not what's happening," and they tried to minimize it and everything, but it really did destroy the movement, didn't it?
Ace Trade says morning.
Good morning, Ace. I'm wondering maybe we would sell the E-mini today.
Michael XC says the US doesn't have mental institutions?
Well, they do. I mean, you can go to a mental institution, but it's not like it used to be like you could get committed to a mental institution.
IQ says, are we back to BS or trading? Buy the ZB for now.
Yeah. You think I should buy the ZB? I mean, I'm watching it carefully here. I can see that here at 25.5 would be a place to buy, but it's not. I don't know if it's giving me a clear enough signal, dude. And the time, I don't know, like usually when we hold something.
Ace Trade says looking for a long, it's been up since 220.
Okay. Well, when I look at the level 2 on the E-mini, I'm not seeing a whole lot. So maybe it's not a good trade for me right now. And keep an eye at this 25.5. I mean, there's
says
a good,
maybe indecisive because of Powell.
Yeah. There's a good iceberg at 25.5 saying buy me, but I'm really wary of it. I'm really wary of it. In fact, I'm wary of this uptrend. I mean, when you're starting to look at the what is it? There's a head and shoulders chart on the 30-minute chart. There's a head and shoulders pattern. I don't know if the volume and cumulative delta necessarily support it. And the problem is that because part of it happened, part of it happened in the overnight session. So it would be really hard to determine if it's a true head and shoulders pattern. But if we saw an acceleration in selling, we could totally see it come down and see a lot of this retrace. And so, in my opinion, a 25.5 is a little riskier than it might appear. Yeah. Anyways, mental institutions, right? So it used to be that in the United States, you could get committed to a mental institution, and it was quite difficult to get out of the mental institution. And there was this guy, and he excuse me. This guy, he was skeptical of mental institutions. He was concerned about this story of, a person gets committed to a mental institution, even though they're not crazy, but their family says that they're crazy. And then the mental institution doesn't believe anything that they say, and they can't get out of the mental institution.
Ace Trade says if it touches 3083.00, go long.
Oh, okay. And keep an eye on it. So he decided to do an experiment where he took a couple of his students and he told them to go to a mental institution and commit themselves and then act perfectly normal and see how long it would take to get out of the mental institution. And when this study came out, it was pretty, what would we say, popular, significant. Like it was a big story. And so this big movement came along to get rid of the mental institutions. And so most of the really big statewide institutions...
says taking a day off, currently fitting the border collie with snowshoes.
Okay. It used to be that states would run mental institutions, but the politicians basically closed them all. one of the most significant ones was in Topeka. There was a huge Topeka, which is the
Ace Trade
capital of
says at Gary
Kansas.
Rich lol. How much on the ground?
There was a huge mental institution, and they closed it. And so when you go to Topeka and you're walking around the streets, there are so many crazy people. It's ridiculous. Okay, it's ridiculous. Anyways, there was a story. The reason why I was going into this, there was a story yesterday in the New York Times, I believe it was, where somebody was doing an expose on this this article that this guy wrote. And
Harlequin says lol, something like that happened in Germany. Gussel Malith, crazy story. You should read in some time.
Yeah, I will look that up. Anyways, this guy, he went to go back and he got the notes that this guy had written, because he was writing a book, but he never put the book out. And when he started going through it, he started seeing things that didn't line up. And he was like trying to find somebody that had been committed, that participated in the experiment, and he can't find anyone. He literally cannot find a person that participated in that experiment. And he's starting to think that the whole thing was nonsense. Well, not nonsense. What's the right word? Made up. He thinks that it was made up now. So we've put people in mental institutions, or we close mental institutions based on a study that apparently was hogwash. It's kind of interesting, right? That's the way it goes. Anytime that you see scientific study in the news, I would be a little skeptical, because a lot of the statistics and stuff
Michael
that they're using in these
says,
are,
yep. Lucas says at ACE trades, how far is the stop?
He usually does like 3 to 4 ticks, right? Well, we got enough of a turn there. I think I could put it in. Oh.
Ace Trade says at Lucas, I have a 4-tick stop on this one.
Well, the E-mini...
Lucas says, why does she read ACE? Face with tears of joy. Ace Trade says, worried the whole market is going to turn right now.
Oh, I'm trying to sell it. You were saying it was a buy. I'm wrong here, right? Maybe if he gets out, then maybe we would reverse it. So I think that a sell would make a lot more sense today. Yeah, iceberg at 26, and they go over it. This is not the most exciting action in the 10-year. It's not really easy. When you get tons of icebergs and stuff, that makes it really hard to read the order flow. We should pull up a 15-minute chart here. Okay. So there was an iceberg
Lucas
at 27.
Lucas says I'd like to buy at 81.50.
Tons at 27, and now tons at 25.5. $81.50. Oh, in the E-mini down here. Well, I'm just noticing that as the treasuries chug along here, seeing a decrease in interest in the 10-year, but then a little bit of action in the 30 and the 5 at this particular location as they're coming back up.
Lucas says depends how close to open we are if it gets there. Gary Rich says VIX is still low enough to lift or melt up the indices and fade the highs.
Okay.
Ace Trade says out. Sorry at Lucas.
So Ace is out. Let's see if it takes if it gives us a short signal now. Let's see this right here.
Lucas says at ACE trades it's okay bud, I'm waiting on the sideline for now.
It appears that they're trying to push it up. But you can see here 26.5. That shouldn't be that low. By the way, I looked at my trade yesterday. That one where I was like, oh, I could have gotten 4 ticks. And when I watched it on replay, the exit was so obvious. I was like, oh my gosh, that price totally pulled. And then when they hit it, it immediately iceberged and hit back. And I should have, right then and there, I should have taken +3. I felt so dumb when I saw that. And it wasn't like I didn't see it the first time. I just completely dismissed it as important. And that's a signal, like that's one that I know that there's something to that sometimes, you know? Well, that's funny that the 26.5 is trading back and forth, but they haven't traded into 27.
Lucas says it's Seth, right? Everything is so obvious on recording.
It is. Well, the problem is that, you know, a lot of order flow is you'll see something, and anytime that a particular thing happens, you'll always see that something
Gary
before
Rich
it.
says the DXY jumped a bit. It's puzzling me. Maybe dollar liquidity repo will pop again.
You will, every time that you see that big move, you'll see that little signal before. But when you see that little signal, it's like 10% of the time that it actually results in the big move. That's what a lot of order flow signals are. And so I would see something like that, and it's like, yeah, but if the buyer really wants to, he can push right through it. But in that particular situation, they said, nope, okay, somebody wants to sell it here, I'm done. And that's what happened. And I wasn't paying attention to the context well enough, and I dismissed it, thinking that they were going to push up. Well, some did go through at 27 finally, but then it ticked back down. And the E-mini down, actually a little bit of delta down. Of course, if we had actually been able to sell 83, it still would have only been 1 point. We are hearing the prepared testimony for Fed Powell's speech in front of the U.S. Congress to be released at 2:30 p.m. GMT or 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, which would be in 15 minutes. Did you catch that? So Chairman Powell's opening speech will be
Gary Rich says Lagarde gonna throw liquidity at Eurozone.
You think so, huh? Well, do I see the euro moving this morning? It's kind of doing some weird stuff. It's doing the thing currencies do. I think they might be buying this. When you come down, and look, now it's spike, 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 spike. Lots of delta down here too. It came down there, but then it didn't really balance until this part. That's weird. And now 27 is showing weak. But you can see there's like, where's the sellers? 153. Okay, took a bid. Well, that one where I said maybe it was a buy, but it's maybe riskier than it looks. It looks like a great trade now, doesn't it? You get an
Wrong
okay
ZH
liquidity
says morning.
too.
Gary Rich says if the euro trades up 111 it's on. Think when pound jumped on Brexit deal.
Okay. What's this?
Michael XC says at what level was that riskier than it looks?
25 half.
Lucas says what do you think could happen with the markets if Democrats win next year? Could this be negative, positive, or neutral?
It depends on largely who the nominee is, but if it was Elizabeth Warren,
Ace Trade says 3082.50 would be a good place to get short, except it's too close to open.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. Yeah, so if it was Elizabeth Warren, granted, markets can do whatever they want. Let's always keep that in mind, okay? I've seen markets move up with really bad presidents and down with really good presidents.
Uzi Knesset says mornin', running late today, astonished face. Michael XC says I got in at 25.5. How high are we going?
Well, I don't know. There's probably still going to be some resistance at 27.5. If there's not, then maybe the highs. But there's all that liquidity sitting up there at like 28.5 and stuff. I would just always look for.
Ace Trade says at UZI Knesset, come on man, we have been waiting for you.
I know, right? I didn't know what to do because Uzi wasn't here. No, Michael, so the things that I look for, and I'm not saying that you should, but the things that I will look for is, one, we're moving up and you see a huge iceberg pops up. And in this case, it would need to be like 3 to 5,000. Like we came up to 28.5, 3 to 5,000 trade at 28.5. Tepid exit area.
Uzi Knesset says face with tongue.
And the reason I exited those spots is because that gives you an easier spot to get filled. Okay, so iceberg there. Okay, cool. Another thing is if I come up and I see something like, say we ticked up here again and 28 completely pulled and there was only 500.
IQ says TGT1 15721.
And it completely pulled, and then when they hit it, it icebergs and you see stuff trade at both of these prices, like it goes bid and they immediately sell whatever they bid. Okay, that is a potential you might want to get out. Or you just see them, they tick down and they tick down significantly. So like in this case, they ticked down at 27, but there's only 700 on the offer. But if they had done something like they had ticked down and there was immediately 1,600 on the offer, then that would also be a signal that maybe that move is over, right? And then the last thing that I'm going to look for is when I see a huge bid, like we tick up and there's a huge bid there, and it seems unnecessary. When you see that one, that one can be a warning. So, but another way that you can take it is just based off of the action that we're seeing. So right now we're seeing 6. So if you got 3 to 4, 1, 2, 3, sure, 27, maybe worth it. Depends on what kind of move you're looking for. Here, I didn't take that trade. If I had taken it at 25 half, I suspect that I would be looking for it to try and test the highs, but I don't know if would be the right call.
Gary Rich says if the Dems win 2020, the markets will sell off that night. It will sell off 25% soon after. Bank these words. I'm not joking.
Markets are up as much as they are, in large part because Donald Trump has removed a lot of burdensome regulations. If Elizabeth Warren was president, those regulations would be turned back and it would hurt those companies. And so you would almost certainly see a market sell-off just off of that alone. And it kind of makes you wonder, when that happens, how would they react to it? Because the
IQ
social
says you betting the house on it.
I would bet the house on it, yeah. Totally.
Michael XC says market is up because all that printed money has to be parked somewhere.
If I had the account size to play it, maybe we can find a way to play it. But we get there on election night and I see Elizabeth Warren wins, I'm clicking market sell, man. I would click market sell. It's almost guaranteed. Like I said, I always have to put a bit of caution on there because markets can be incredibly irrational. But I'm betting there's probably like an 80% probability that if Elizabeth Warren got elected, that you would see a big sell-off.
Gary Rich says, damn right.
Thank you. And you would see a big sell-off at the beginning, and then as things went into effect, you would see the market move down. And then the question is, how do they react to it? Because the socialists' reaction to markets not favoring them is usually...
Michael XC says, so Warren is probably going to be the candidate?
I don't know.
Harlequin says, well, I remember people saying that market would crash after Trump. I remember several people saying that. For instance, George Soros lost $1 billion on a short bet.
Oh, yeah.
Uzi Knesset says, nah, it'll be Clinton.
Uzi still thinks it's going to be Clinton.
Uzi Knesset says, face with tongue.
Well, I think I still have my money on Buttigieg. And he is starting to do better. I am up on the trade now. I don't think that it makes up for my loss with Harris. The funny thing with the loss on Harris...
Gary Rich says, if I see the battleground states come in blue, I'm buying shit tons of VIX futures.
When it happened, I just kind of dismissed it.
Ace Trade says there is a point to erase my loss.
I bought Harris. Like, after the first debate, I said,
Michael
I want Harris and
XC says
Buttigieg.
Buttigieg has gotta be the funniest name for a candidate.
Right. I said, I want Harris and Buttigieg. So I put the orders in, and I got filled on Buttigieg, and I didn't get filled on Harris. And they were both at 15. Okay. And so I just left it there. And then later on, Kamala Harris fell down, and it filled.
Says aced.
And I said, well, that's okay. Maybe we can kind of let it do its thing.
Greg Orlovsky says now that they got Epstein out of the way. I'm thinking Clinton.
I'm thinking that I should have said, oops, that was a mistake, and it immediately turned around and sold it, but I didn't. But if Buttigieg wins, it would more than cancel out the loss. But it's kind of more of a risk reward play. The probability isn't very good right now.
The spiritual advisor lady, Marianne, whatever her
Williamson.
Name was. Wanna see a debate between her and Trump?
There you go. That would be funny. I think that she would probably be like a deer in the headlights, to be honest. I don't think that she would deal very well with somebody directly confronting her.
Uzi Knesset says, I'll admit defeat on that call if Clinton doesn't jump in during the impeachment hearings. She gonna strike while the iron's hot. Ace Trade says at Harlequin, from what I have seen, she would lose a debate with a mirror.
With a mirror? Oh, man. You're funny. You're funny. I think that the 30-year bought that dip. Can I really buy it here, though, at 27? Especially with the
Harlequin says at ACE Trades, yeah, of course. And that would be funny. I didn't say she was a good candidate, lol.
Could have sold that one that Ace had pointed out. I think we would. Well, how much we got? Where was it?
Ace Trades says at Lucas, did you go short? Gary Rich says my Dem candidate is legless, mental dysfunctional puppy. I can still hope for that one.
I wish I'm short over here. I wish I'm long over here. And this is like exactly the spot where it's like I really shouldn't take it, but I'm so tempted to, and I'm not going to, and
Knesset
it's
says just
probably
gotta wait
going
for
to go.
Dems to come to terms with the fact that they aren't gonna get Trump out of office via impeachment. When that reality sets in, Clinton will jump in the race.
Maybe. It is really curious to me that so many
Lucas says at
advisors
ACE
say,
Trades no sad face, was waiting for the open.
so many of her advisors are saying that she could jump in. That is really shocking to me. And I really just do not think that any politician can run twice in the modern era. Back in the day, it was a thing because there wasn't the 24-hour news cycle. But the 24-hour news cycle basically makes it so that when one candidate loses, they are toxic at that point. What Hillary Clinton lost, she is toxic. At that point, you'd go away. Mitt Romney, he doesn't get it. And of course, nobody likes him.
Ace Trade says at Lucas good, that is smart. I'm still in, not listening to my own advice. I was mad about my earlier loss. Knesset says she's also waiting for the pressure to build. Tease, speculation, support builds, jump in the race with a massive head start in support, watch.
Could be. But my money is still on Buttigieg. But when Biden fades and Buttigieg already has a good lead in the early states, and it'll be just like Barack Obama. It'll just be like he'll come out of nowhere.
Harlequin says plot twist, Clinton gonna jump in for the Republicans and win the Republican presidential debate. Mark my words. And then still lose. Gary Rich says Clinton runs 3 times as a charm. Ace Trades says 2 min. IQ says TGT filled ZB.
There was a little stack there. Might hurt a little.
Lucas says at ACE Trades you taught the market who's the boss. Knesset says Buttigieg won't do well with their coveted voter demographics.
They'll get over it. I'm telling you. Listen, Buttigieg is going to be the candidate that makes America comfortable with homosexuality. They'll get over it. Listen, Democrats, they'll get over any kind of qualm that they have. Once he's the nominee, whatever it is, whatever problem they have.
Is Powell's statement being released at 9:30 a.m. Est?
Yes. In
Ace
1
Trade
minute.
Says at Lucas, haha, right? The market will be here long after it drains my account.
So in 1 minute, it gets released. There's usually not anything terribly important in the opening statement, so I wouldn't expect it to do anything, but especially since, you're going to have the e-mini opening at the same time.
Gary Rich says it's Warren, Bernie or Biden, 3 old men and a worn shoe.
Yeah, well, listen, I don't think that Biden stands a chance, right? And so when Biden starts to fade in the early states, the moderate is Buttigieg. He's going to pick up the momentum, and it'll be like Barack Obama. He'll come out of nowhere. And take those early states. And once that happens, then the media will start to go full bore Buttigieg all the time. They'll just, because they absolutely love the guy, and he's really good for media. And he'll come out, and any Democrats that have a problem.
Says alternate call is that if Warren wins nomination, she'll choose Clinton as a running mate.
Any demographic of the Democrat Party that has trouble with homosexuality, the media will tell them that they're wrong and that they're bigoted and that they need to change their ways, and they will. And just like that, it'll all go away. Guarantee you. There was a lot of volume that sold there on the open, but now we're back up and it's clicking.
Harlequin says I want Biden to win the nomination and want him to choose Obama. Greg Orlovsky says China, U.S. warship activities are under surveillance, PLA Daily.
Okay.
Uzi Knesset says Harlequin is a sadist lol.
I want Biden to win the
IQ says
nomination
nice
and
10
choose
T Ryan
Obama.
ZB.
That, you know what? That would be so effing hilarious. That would be worth happening just for the memes, I think. I don't know. I look back on it. It's like I remember when people were saying if Donald Trump gets elected, it's the end of the world. And when people said that stuff, my first thought was, well, I remember when Barack Obama was president, and I really hated almost everything about Barack Obama as president. But you know what? The end of the world never came. The end of the world never came. And so, and the thing is that it never came because, Republicans in Congress and like nothing happened. And you look at what with Donald Trump, nothing happens. Well, I mean, Donald Trump has done a lot of stuff and he's done a lot of good, but in the larger scheme of things, everything that Donald Trump has done can easily be erased by an Elizabeth Warren because it's all executive. There's no laws have actually been passed. And so I say, wouldn't be so bad. Elizabeth Warren, you know what? If Elizabeth Warren was elected, okay, so that right there, okay, they took it. We're fine. That right there was a tepid, like, watch out. But he insisted, so we're okay. Anyways, if Elizabeth Warren was made president, sure, it would be bad for the country for like 4 years, but then everybody would get over it, and Republicans would put up a decent challenger to her in 2024, and that would be the end of it. And I don't think there would be a whole lot of harm done. You gotta trust that the two-party system makes it hard for like the things that the socialists want to do. Yeah. Oh. Okay. That's a lot of volume going through there. The E-mini was selling and then they bought it up. I wanna. They should hit that again, I would think.
Greg Orlovsky says all Powell.
Fed Powell says interest rates unlikely to change as long as growth continues. Doesn't sound like anything to me. But the downtick was bad. Okay.
Harlequin says at UZI Knesset I'm just a sadist because I'm safe here in Germany from any candidate you choose. I can just lay back and have fun during your presidential debates.
Did you guys see that one at 28?
Gary Rich says you guys are too young to remember Carter stagnation and bad times.
My position in the queue was a lot better than Jigsaw showed. That whole sequence of events was very odd to me.
Uzi Knesset says safe in Germany, lol.
Right? I think what Uzi is implying is that Germany has its own set of problems. Oh man.
Gary Rich says Warren elected will be stagnating and war on capital.
Yeah. Well, I sure got lucky on that one. Mr. Market Maker, whoever it was that ticked it up and put it through few orders through there at 28. I appreciate it. I mean, I was really tilted about the one that you caught me on yesterday.
IQ says you under occupation in Germany 50,000 babysitters.
Given me that one today, I'm grateful. Yeah, so this reminds me here. Let me go on a little rant here. This reminds me of an argument that I was having with somebody on Facebook yesterday because they were arguing about the whole okay boomer thing, because they say, oh, okay boomer is because you're trying to maintain the current economic order that is exploitative towards people. And I'm like, no, it's just I understand economics, and I know that if you try and implement the same failed policies of the 70s and socialism and stuff, that it's not going to solve any of the problems that you have. It's not like that things are all peachy, okay? The middle class is doing very well. The US economy is doing very well. But there are certainly some imbalances in the US economy that concern me, okay? That we need to fix. But you're not going to fix them with socialism. The reason there's a problem is because there are barriers to free markets. There are barriers to people participating in the free market. And if we remove those barriers, then we will see more people starting their own businesses and creating wealth that way. And we'll get income back up because people will be starting business and new things. It's too difficult for new things nowadays. That's a problem. So they were going through and they were saying, well, yeah, but Europe has all of these things and it's great. And I'm like, well, okay, do you want to live in Europe? Do you want negative interest rates? Like, come on. And they have debt too. Some of it is a little bit better than the United States, but they have debt too in Europe. And like some people speculate that all of these countries at some point are going to face a significant crisis if they don't get their budgets under control, which means that they're probably going to have to get rid of a lot of the socialist programs in Europe. Although Germany's doing an okay job with their budget, aren't they? So like, it was just the whole thing. It was like, hey, listen, Europe has their problems too. Like all of the stuff with immigration going on over there, and they have their problems. It's not like it's awful. It's not like it's perfect, but they have their problems too. But then this person goes like, even listen, like you guys, you don't know anything because California, they're like the most socialist state in the union, and they're like one of the strongest growing because they got like 4% growth last year or something like that. And I was like, okay, yeah, like trying to hold California up as your standard is probably about the dumbest move that you could possibly make. Because you go back and you look at like how well California has been doing this year, not that good. Almost every conservative state is having more growth than California right now. And I would expect that at the end of the year, 2019, with all these fires and all of the other problems that California has had, that their GDP growth is not going to look very good this year. It's not going to look very good this year. And it just kind of made me laugh. And I think that the conversation died down from there. But it was funny. It was a fun conversation. It's interesting to watch those ones because people are always able to find, search out in Google until they find a statistic that they think supports their argument. Preach on, Seth, 2024.
IQ says you under occupation in Germany 50,000 babysitters. Harlequin says of course we have problems. Therefore it's fun to laugh at others, like Brexit or USA. Beaming face with smiling eyes. Gary Rich says preach on. Seth 2024.
That reminds me of another thought that I wanted to share with you guys, and this one is a little bit more related to trading. But this guy, I was watching somebody on YouTube. I was watching Devin on YouTube, and he was talking about how some people will get super involved in other people's lives because they don't have anything going on in their lives, I'm sure you're familiar with this whole idea, right? But the way that he presented it was interesting to me. He said, these guys, they're streamers, and they are unwilling or unable to have the success that they want. They are unable to become the person that they want to be that would give them that success. And because they can't do that, then they get involved in other people's lives, and then they get like super involved in drama. And that's why when you get like drama on the internet, like it can turn into this really wild thing, especially when it's like with streamers and famous people and stuff like that. And I thought about that with trading. I thought that was interesting. It was like, are there things that I'm doing right now that are making me unwilling or unable to have the amount of success that I have? And am I using other things to distract myself from that problem? Because I've had some successes this year.
Ace Trade says here are some alternatives to OK Boomer.
Oh, let me hear. I've done okay this year, but I'm not happy to pass.
About to croaky.
What? Oh, man. That was an interesting pullback, but the E-mini had a good buy there. That buy, though, it looks suspicious to me. It's not a lot.
Ace Trade says 10 to 4 dinosaur.
10 to 4 dinosaur?
Ace Trade says very well, sir, old as hell.
I like to just say, okay, commie. Because it's always brought up in the context of wanting to implement a socialist policy.
Ace Trade says fine with me, elderly.
Okay, boomer is a meme to avoid having to explain why socialism fails everywhere it's tried. That's my take on it. Anyways, I've had some success this year, but I'm really unhappy with some of the stuff that happened in October, you know? It's like, why did I do some of those things? And do I sometimes kind of try and hide from that? You know?
Lucas says, do you think you streaming might be a hindrance to the very thing you're doing?
I think it's a real possibility, sure. I think we've said that many times before, haven't we? I think that as with anything, there's going to be positives and negatives with it, right? One of the negatives of streaming is that it creates a really big distraction, doesn't it? It creates a really big distraction. And I've missed some significant things because I was not looking over here, I was looking over there.
Lucas says IQ is so mad face with tears of joy.
And but I think that the benefit that we've gotten from having you guys and being able to learn from you guys and being able to create a community, I think matters more than what I lose from the distraction. That's my take on it. I think we could battle politics BS. I mean, look, sometimes there are, we gotta find time, fill time. There's lots of things to talk about.
Ace Trade says possible short 3084.25 setting up.
Oh, really? Okay, let's see which one of these fill first. If this goes up, we got 129. The top of this is 02 half. 02 half, and then after that, 08 half.
Lucas says at ACE Trades you think in the very opposite way I think in trading lol. Uzi Knesset says it's interesting how bids pile in at the high cause they know that's where people most likely to sell. Lucas says no wonder why I lose. Gary Rich says I can chew gum, rub my tummy and trade at the same time. I escaped from circus. I spin plates.
I don't know if I can. Have you ever noticed how, though, if they're coming up and then they turn, how
IQ says getting out at 23 ZB42 in K.
A lot of liquidity ends up sitting there. It's like the robot puts its money down there, and I don't know if they put it there to signal to the rest of the market that it's going to move, or that it's going to go the other way, or if they stick it there because they think there's a really good chance it's going to come back and it's going to get filled. But it's kind of weird to me. Okay. So that was a really strong buy there. I don't know if I'm going to get filled here.
IQ says out.
Interesting. At 23, huh? Well, I'm just looking at that trade. Okay, they did fill me, but did you see how much they bought to tick it up, and then with the position that I actually got in the queue?
Wrong ZH says that was good trade ace. Uzi
It was.
Knesset says just like all the offers above the high. They're banking on shorts puking for fills.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. This guy at 120, well, this guy at 129, there's always a big order at 129, but like these guys at 31, half 31. I would expect to see up here around 29, 29 half to see some sort of a level break setup type of a thing, but at the moment they're being kind of
Uzi Knesset
wishy-washy.
says the opposition nature of it is interesting and annoying for decision making lol. Ace Trade says at Lucas not sure what to say, I just live off those 1 and 2 point trades. Ace Trade says at Wrong ZH thanks, good for 2 points.
Get that
IQ
long
says pulling
again.
to 28 CB.
Okay. How is the 5-year doing here? It's a good sell to bring us up here, but then ever since then, a little tepid. The E-mini did see a really good sell there, but it didn't really go, did it? They're kind of fighting against it, and the 5-year is following suit. Okay, there's an uptick. That uptick kind of pulled the 5-year up with it. But the 30 didn't go, the 5-year didn't go.
IQ says seems sellers are holding 23/24.
Yeah. I think you had the good trade there, IQ, with having been in already and being able to get out there at kind of the decision point instead
Uzi
of what I'm
Knesset
doing.
says that absorption on the bid at 22 though.
Okay, that was a big iceberg at 22 too, isn't it? But now that's down tick a little bit too much on that offer. They're buying it back. Five-year taking that one back quickly, huh? So already showing some sort of a false breakout sort of a pattern. The E-mini starting to go down a bit more again. Okay, there's the 5-year. Good. 30 not. Okay.
Gary Rich says watch how they build at different levels on both sides, they will drive it towards those prices in time. It's in ranges.
Yeah. Okay, now the 5-year is like making it look like they're going to try and make a break. And look at the E-mini. So there's the open price. They just took it below the open price in the E-mini. Okay, a little bit of stacking on the ask. 29. That's definitely not what I wanted to see. They could totally go, but I did not like my spot, and I don't like that stacking that I'm seeing in the 10. Hmm. Mm-mm-mm. We see here in the 10. Now it clicks. Now they're like, and he's out. We can go.
Ace Trades says BRB.
I don't know. I'm feeling pretty FOMO right now, but I still don't like what I'm seeing. I need to fix that. Okay. That might have been significant too. Was an ask put on? Oh, but he pulled it at 28. He stacked and then he pulled it at 28 when they hit back. The 5-year looks like it could turn down. 10-year really looks like, or sorry, the 30-year really looks like it could turn down. In fact, it just ticked down there and is trying to drag the 10 with it. There's an iceberg at 28 too. Ah! Welcome everybody to Iceberg City. We have a stormy day today. Okay, cool. Trade 27.5, please. Yeah, that's pulling in there, absorbing. Okay. Now the 5-year is on the edge. On the other side. Watch live households public impeachment hearings. So that is going on. It's 28. I wonder if this is still luring. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28. 28 Certainly seems like that's what they're doing in the 5-year. Okay. It's interesting to watch the volume come through them because it's like when you see the buyers, it's like 1, 1, 1, 1, and then when you see the seller, it's like a 50. Okay. So still somebody trying to hold 27.5, but it went offer. Even it looks like it survived that sell really well. So if they get above like 28, right here is opening range low. And they could go for new high for sure. It sounds like the children are awake. Okay, so E-mini's holding that spot okay. There's the 30 is trying to drag it down. Click, bid, pull at 20. That's way out there though. End at 26. That's interesting. There was an order at 26. I didn't notice it before, but I guess that 26 was more like 2,700, and he just pulled some of it off. Well, it was a good downturn, but I don't know if it's actually going to continue. They may still just be scared. And so they didn't stick a whole lot on the offer there. Okay, that's a little better. Quite a bit going through there at 13.25. Okay. So this kind of action I find really frustrating because I don't really know what to make of it. I think that that was luring and it's good that it's ticking back down, but
Uzi Knesset says impeachment poll before the hearing. I love the choices, holding an inquiry, impeachment, or impeachment and removal, lol.
oh, what, really? Yeah, the polling on that is interesting because I don't think that the polling has been very honest. Like, like the thing is it appears to me that the American public is totally like, sure, let's investigate things, let's have a hearing, like, let's get everything out in the open. That's the American way, is like, oh, if there's information to be had, then you have to tell us now. Now you have to tell us. So of course they say that.
IQ says Seth, what's your shit on foreign aid, giving $3 billion and counting, coup in Bolivia, attempted coup Venezuela. Uzi Knesset says point gun at guy, threaten guy, or threaten and shoot guy, lol.
Right. So it's like they, of course, people are in favor of looking into it, but then they turn around and they say they favor impeachment, and it's not. That's not what the poll meant. That's not what this poll showed. It's very disingenuous. You know, foreign aid, you know, it's a thing. You have to have it. Are they spending too much on it? Probably. It's not really an area that I know a whole lot about. Unfortunately, I wish I could go on a big rant for you here. I'm liking the way this is going so far. The E-mini is looking really good. Like today really looks like it would be a day where they would really hit it hard and you would see some pullback and stuff. And yeah.
Claudio Ibarola says hi, is your volume profile from the open treasuries?
Claudio, my volume profile is from the whole extended session on the 10-year. In the equities, that resets when the market opens. Well, I didn't see it when they hit 26.5. I think that they're still going to try and push it. I better pay attention there, though, huh?
Claudio Ibarola says okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. I'm having flashbacks to yesterday, guys. Guess difference this time is I'm a seller, but okay. So a little bit of iceberging maybe there at 27. Hmm. Right now in the 5-year, it looks like a lot of people bought in there and are stuck. Like if this starts squeezing lower, then they could probably really go. Okay. So they hit 27. There's an iceberg there. But not really iceberging in the 5-year, just kind of balance. Lots of robots transacting there. Ooh, ouch. At 12.5, pull to 100 at 12.5 is a little odd. Hmm. And it takes it and it stacks. We're starting to get some really strong trending type of signs. Okay. Where was that click? It was on the ask. Oof. Okay, only 421 to take 26.
Popularity Matters says Republicans make it public.
Interesting. Do you guys even know who's testifying today or any of that stuff? The offer is starting to put up a stink. He's squeezing them hard.
Popularity Matters says now that it is public. Cry, cry, cry.
Woo. Okay. I think that there could be more in that, but that was the same signal that I ignored before, so I'm taking it.
Popularity Matters says it is on now, Seth.
Yeah, I know it's on now. But who's testifying? That's the question. Well, 25.5, I got out at 25.5. This make me having +6 today makes me happy, folks. I've had a couple of steps. You know, it's weird. I kind of started to get in on this earlier, but
Gary Rich says, Seth, have you ever traded by price only charts?
not in treasuries. I don't think so. I think I've always had some component of volume up. I have done it in stocks, though. I did okay when I was doing it in stocks, but I think that the reason for my success when I was doing it in stocks was because I understood the direction the market was going.
Popularity Matters says Bill Taylor for sure. I don't know about anyone else.
Okay. Well, anyways, you know, I was asking this whole thing about, okay, do you distract yourself sometimes because you're unable or unwilling to do the thing that's going to make you popular, you know? Because it's like your mind wants to do that thing that it doesn't want to do. I came home yesterday and I was like, well, I have a couple of things that I can do. I should do them. I should work. I'm 35. This is like the work time, you know? Maybe I'm working too hard and maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe I try too hard, but I feel like that I'm at a point where like, it's there and you just have to take advantage of it and not self-sabotage. And, you know, that's hard because you might not even understand why you do some of the things that you do, you know? But I caught that one. I think I had a good exit. Like the thing is, but the whole reason I was going into that was because when I look at my goals and the things that I've been trying to do with my trading recently, I've done a really good job. Like ever since that big stop out, I haven't taken as many trades. I've been staying out of action where I didn't have a good call. There's been many days where I didn't take trades and I was like really happy that I didn't take any trades. It's just there's like 1 or 2 days where I just was really terrible. You take those 2 days out and it's amazing. And I'm told that that tends to happen when you're starting to get better at it. And that eventually you get rid of those days. And then you know, you're on a better path. But that's kind of my thought. And I think the streaming is part of it. I know streaming can be a distraction, but I thought I played that one really well. I know I was pretty focused. Yeah. And I really want to put more work into the channel because, you know, for one thing, it is a valuable thing. It is something that can help me, but I really feel like it helps you guys. I mean, you're telling me every day that you find the stream useful. You keep watching. The stream is actually growing. What did we hit today? Let's go look.
Popularity Matters says I would die if I had 0 trades. Popularity Matters says but no pick my spots.
I think the peak was around 27. So I would die if I had 0 trades, but no pick my spots. Yeah, you know what though, man, I'm telling you, especially in the 10-year, there are some days where you just don't have edge. I think one of the biggest things that Jesse Livermore ever said.
Popularity Matters says, but I pick my spots.
I got you. I think one of the best advice that Jesse Livermore gave was that you can't make money by trading, you know, market every day.
Gary Rich says you are not going to win every time. Be proud of your progress.
Thank you, Gary. I appreciate it. You know, that's a thing that's one thing that always gets me is like I sit and I watch and I look at what I myself have done and there's very much a does the stream make you more conscientious?
Popularity Matters says does the stream make you more conscientious?
I mean, I think it probably does. I don't think that I'm a terribly conscientious person though. You know, the ADHD thing is a real thing. I'm sure that anybody else doing this stream would be like way more focused and wouldn't have the problems that I do. But you know, it is what it is. But no, I just what was I saying? I mean, you see, I lost my focus there, right there.
Popularity Matters says, yeah, the 10 years is tough.
Yeah. I mean, the 10-year is the most competitive product out there, so there's no question about that. Anyways.
Popularity Matters says, I hate it.
I hate it. One of the things that gets me, though, is I look at myself and I'm like, why did I do that? And I can see all of the dumb things, you know, like they really stick out to me. But you guys always come and encourage me, and the things you say that you still believe that I'm, you know, gonna continue to get better, and that you guys are happy with what we've done so far, and that really, I mean, that helps. How many people out there, you know, would still be in it if they had that same kind of encouragement, you know? I'm a stubborn person and I probably wouldn't give up.
Gary Rich says this stream sucks. I lose more money watching this. LOL, just kidding.
Probably.
Popularity Matters says ZB and UB I like. ZF is fun by low tick value.
Is ZF fun? I you know, it's kind of weird, Popularity Matters. I every once in a while will have somebody come in and trade the 5-year. And then they kind of disappear. And I don't know if it's just that they see nobody else is trading the 5-year or if they just decide that it doesn't work on the 5-year. I mean, theoretically, it should all work in the 5-year, right? I mean, it's not like there's not tons of volume going through in there, but the commissions hurt. The commissions hurt, but you tend to get a little bit bigger swings in the 5-year, don't? Yeah, it's kind of tough. I don't know. I really think that when you're looking at the volume, though, the read is definitely better in the 10.
Popularity Matters says you do well for an ADHD trading ZN. My ADHD won't allow it. IQ says
Yeah.
ZB at 157 to 16 now what lol.
You know what? I'm just looking at that swing now. There's a chance that they go lower. I think there's a really good chance that the treasuries continue to sell. But it won't go much further before I have to leave. And I read that exit signal. I'm so happy about that now. To see when you get the signal, but then you see that it did what you were worried about. It feels so good. It feels so good. You know what? I've said this before, popularity matters, but I feel like that trading the 10-year with the ADHD helps. And it helps because you're doing the one thing that you're having the hardest time with, right? It's like, if that's your biggest weakness, then you trade the 10-year, it forces you to fix and work on that weakness. And I think it helps a ton. I think there's some things about the trading the 10-year. I feel really strongly that everybody should trade the 10-year for a little bit. Everybody, if you're doing really great in oil or you're doing really great in the E-mini, I would recommend just take a sim account and just trade the 10-year for a month. And the amount of the things that you learn when you trade the 10-year is crazy, because like when you look at the E-mini, you can make money off of the E-mini just catching these little swings, and you don't really have to have a very clear idea of what's going on. But in the 10-year, if you don't know what the underlying context is, it gets really hard, because they have this order flow and they have a really good way of making it look like it's going to go the opposite way. But when you know which way it's actually going...
Says I have a buddy who loves ZF, but yeah, the comma's tough. He takes more ticks per trade than in ZN or ZB.
Okay, cool. So it works out. It sounds like that the math works out for him. Yeah, but in the 10-year, here in this spot, like when we were at the top, I was like, well, they're buying it, but they're not buying it super aggressively. And I know that the context here is that the market is going to have a pullback. They want to buy this up and hit 129. That they weren't doing it said to me a short. And so when I started to see that action there, I realized, okay, this actually is a short, and it worked. And I read the signal correctly. But I wouldn't be able to read that signal correctly if I didn't understand, what were the important things guiding the movement and who's participating in the 10-year treasury today. And when you understand what those forces are in the 10-year treasury, you start to understand what those forces are for all markets. And then you can turn around and you can use that information on markets, and you can use your understanding of the order flow. And there's just a lot of things that the 10-year is a great teacher. The 10-year is a great teacher. So yeah, that's my spill about that. But she's a tough teacher, isn't she? Well, I don't like that I took 3 trades today, but...
Gary Rich says, Seth with ADHD, can you trade fast markets or instruments?
I mean, I would think so, but...
Harlequin says, I don't think 10-year is for me. It can be so damn slow. I remember last week you being tilde 2 hours in a trade. I would get a headache.
Oh, yeah.
Popularity Matters says, I ran this market maker drill in the 10 years for a week. It was interesting, but the games that are played are tough. It is where the pros hunt and so thick.
Oh, totally. Totally. And it's like they know it. I'm telling you guys, the big guys. I was having an argument with somebody in Discord about this the other day. And they were like, doesn't it get exhausting trying to figure out what they are going to do? Maybe there's no they. Guys, I know for a fact, because I sat there at one of the largest trading firms in the world and heard them say, listen, if I need to move this market, I can move it. Period. And it would take somebody else wanting to move it the opposite way which almost never happens because we're both banks? Why would we be on complete opposite sides? And if I see something like that, one of us would
Popularity
rather
Matters says I like my women thick, but my market's thin.
let them take it the other way and then do my thing, right? They can move it where they want to. And if you can figure out what that market force is and why they're moving it, then that is a huge edge because you can watch all of the games and okay, well, that's pulling there, but that's probably pulling. That's probably a lure. And then sure enough, they'll hit into it and they'll push it back down and you're like, yeah. And if you don't have that, it's like you can't see it. It just looks like noise. The order flow read is so much easier when you really know the trend. I like my women thick, but my market's thin. The thing is that when I traded oil, because I first started with oil, and I thought I was really good at it for a while. That's why I always say oil lies to you, man. She is like, oh, you're so great. And then she just takes you to the cleaners, man.
Gary Rich says drilling in fast markets or fast time frames builds focus and intuitions.
Yeah, that might be. But the problem that I had in oil was it was like your impulsiveness would start to get
Popularity Matters
get the
says
best
Seth
of
that
you.
is what the flipper did. He moved the market and wiped everyone out.
Yeah. Well, and that's the crazy thing about the flipper is that you would think, okay, here's this one guy and he's doing something in the market. So I should be able to look at what he's doing and then make a decision based on what he's doing as to where it's going to go. But that's not how it works. The way it works is he does a bunch of crazy stuff just to get everybody all triggered. He just does a bunch of stuff just to get a bunch of people to take positions. And then once everybody's taken positions, then he takes it the direction that he wants it to go. And because everybody's done all of this stuff, it's going to go. Because there's going to be people to stop out when one side loses. So there are some of those situations where some of those order flow reads are not very useful. But that's a key thing. This is why I've really started to look for these periods. I mean, sometimes those spikes can be icebergs, but you can see them like right in here, for instance. When we came down there, they were buying that. And you can see, based on the number of people clicking in and trying to put orders in there, that the market had overextended to the downside. Those are reads that you can make because you can see that the market is off kilter. Those are the spots, those are the order flow signals that you want to look for, or the order flow signals that happen when they have to make moves really quickly, right? Like if it's or at least the way that I look at it is if there's a big bank out there and he needs to buy all this stuff, okay? He has all day to do it and he can sit there and let the market go and he can just prevent it from moving up and until enough retail traders have filled him, And then finally when he's filled, then he can let it go up. But what if some piece of news came out or the market is starting to trend and he needs to get filled? That's when you start to see some of those order flow
says
signals.
I wish I had his money to do that. Predatory scalping appeals to me.
Yeah, that's when you see like a big stack will show up and it'll go 8 ticks all of a sudden because somebody big really needs to make a move. Those are the kinds of reads. But what do we do instead? What do we tend to want to do instead? It's really, really boring right now, and I see that the top of the range has pulled, and so I want to buy into it because I think I can catch the edge on the breakout, and then it doesn't break out, So kind of an order flow signal that tends not to work. Anyways, I have to be careful. One of the things I've noticed is like when I do well, then I'm like, all right, guys, here's how to be successful in the markets. And then you turn around and you make a big mistake. But today was a good trade. We should be proud of it. We should be proud of it. And I hope you guys made some money today too. And I don't know. I think it's about time for me to get going. But I just want to thank you guys again for supporting the channel. Go ahead and hit that like button. I really appreciate it. It really helps the channel out. The channel has been doing really well this week. Kind of the new format helps. And not having that big space at the beginning helps because more people watch the videos on replay. But then you guys have been liking the videos and you've been coming back and you've been commenting on the videos after they post. It helps and we're growing and I'm hoping, especially with our video that we just posted, because that video was doing really well too.
Gary Rich says the retail trader is not very present in these markets. It's big money banging bigger money. Think of it like a poker game.
Yeah, you're totally right, Gary. I totally agree with you there. It's like a poker game. Or I like to think of it as rock, paper, scissors, because that's easier for my brain to comprehend. But poker is probably the best analogy. No, we made that video about why you should trade futures. So I really hope that we continue to bring in more good traders. And if you haven't left a comment on there, I asked the question, what originally got you interested in futures? I would, if you haven't left a comment on there, I would really encourage you to go and do there, because I think that that will really help us in terms of, you know, what are the things that really bring people in, you know? So, yeah, if you go and leave a comment there. And I'm hoping that that video will bring traders into futures that wouldn't otherwise.
Popularity Matters says later. Time for coffee in this hearing.
Yep. Enjoy Popularity Matters. I am going to head out. So, there's one other thing that we're supposed to do. Oh, yes. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Yes, follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Check out the Patreon. I will see you tomorrow, Thursday. We got PPI, so we might still have some fun. And in the meantime, stay profitable, friends.